with us, joining us. You might have seen his face last week. Andrew Wood, what's going on? Andrew.
Hey, mate. How you doing?
Big Wood.
Yeah, but people don't really call you Andrew, right?
No, not really many people know me, even in my first name. Andrew, everyone calls me Woody, which Wood is my second name. So obviously in school, everyone was very creative with nicknames, and Woody was what was
Big
developed.
Wood, Small Wood.
Driftwood.
There's a lot of famous Woodies out there, so.
Mate, there's only one Woody.
All right.
Woody.
Well, you're the only Woody I know, so.
There we go.
You're famous to me. Now you have your own company. What can you tell us about your company and what you do?
So yeah, basically, I'm the head strength and conditioning coach at Tiger Muay Thai. So obviously, I work alongside George and all the professional fighters and stuff like that. And just from there, I wanted to build kind of my own brand, which is called Vis Vires Athletics. It's Latin and it stands for strength, power, and improvement. And that kind of encompasses like what I want to get across as a company and as my brand. So I work with a lot of the professional fighters, and also I run classes for everyone within Tiger Muay Thai. So get a good mix of different ranges of fitness and people from all over. So it's cool.
Yeah, it seems like strength and conditioning coaches are becoming more and more prevalent and needed for athletes because they can't really do it by themselves, and they need that aspect of especially conditioning. So let's talk about conditioning. Now, you see a lot of fighters that they don't really have good conditioning, even though they have a strength and conditioning coach. Why do you think that happens?
Oh, there's a huge number of factors that kind of can go into it. One being is that everyone seems to be a strength and conditioning coach now. You know, these buzzwords that go around the fitness industry, and first of all, it was like functional training. Now it's strength and conditioning coach, or now it's starting to turn to performance coach. You know, there's always these buzzwords. So, mate, it's education really. If the coach is actually any good, if he actually programs properly and periodizes the athlete to peak at the right minute, if he actually makes the athlete recover properly, which is a huge, huge thing. If the athlete doesn't get enough recovery, then they're going to be fucked going into the next day and on the next week, and it's just going to drop down, you know, their performance. And also talking with other coaches, like if me and George have got like an athlete in, if they do like a real hard conditioning session with me, I'll kind of speak to George and be like, listen, mate, he's running on empty today. And then George might have him do something a little bit lighter in like the wrestling class later on or whatever. So it's all about making sure the athlete goes up and down with their training in terms of like hard sessions, easier sessions, recovery, et cetera, and then peaking them at the right moment. And I just don't think that many coaches have got that right just yet. A lot of people are still in the mindset of hard training is better. You've got to train hard every session. It's not the case. You're just wearing the body down, and a lot of people can't stick that type of training. So yeah, I think like I say, to answer your question, really the coaches just need to actually educate themselves more, educate the athlete more, and make more of an eye on the athlete, to be honest.
Well, George, you guys work together, when you train athletes and fighters, and all that. Now, having a good relationship, I think that's probably the most important thing for you guys. Not really for the fighter that comes in, but for you guys to kind of have a good understanding of like who the athlete is, what they're capable of, and, I guess everything about them. So how do you guys kind of work together? Can you explain that relationship that you have?
Well, not all the MMA fighters that we have, work with Woody. Some of them work with, one of the other coaches, and some of them also, just do classes, or they don't, because it's obviously not free because it's his, it's what he does for a living. So not everyone does that. but the ones that do, you know, are for the most part, the ones that are around here full time, you know, that take themselves or take their career very seriously. So it's pretty easy to maintain or to keep an eye on them, you know, because Woody and I are pretty close as it is. So we talk, you know, giving each other shit on a daily basis, but obviously we still talk about the athletes. And it's, you know, it's not too hard to police. You know, like he said, if someone's feeling tired or something, then I tell them, you know, maybe you should do this for the afternoon session, or maybe you're just going to do this, but not actually spar, or go, you know, wrestle live or whatnot. So it's pretty easy to police, but it is like sometimes there are athletes that we have that are very uneducated. You know, it's like, you know, you need to do this or stop. Like you did this already. Stop going for a 6K run. You know, like there's still a lot of people that don't understand. You know, like the actual like training aspect. Some people are lazy. Some people, you know, train smart, and some people train like over the top. And it's just like, you know, that day is come and gone. Like it's, you know, I've wrestled in college at Division I level, and that is like, you know, from literally the season starts preseason, and then the season starts in November and goes until March, you know, when the national tournament's over. And that is like, you're going to school, so it's like a full-time job and training. So like you're getting in what you can all the time, but it's such a grind. But it's not like, for fighting, it's, you know, you're getting ready for one fight every 3 months or so, or however often it is during the year. So the training is not, it's not so long, you know, and it should be spread out, and you should have rest. Whereas in a college sport, a lot of times you don't have the rest time. You have to train, you have to go to class, you have to get ready, you have to compete. Like it's not the same. So I think sometimes our athletes are uneducated, and you know they are the guys and women that we have from around, or that are our athletes, are from around the world. So everyone is accustomed to something different, you know, for training. So sometimes, you know, we run into that problem.
Yeah, just to touch on what George was saying, like the uneducation. It's like I don't blame anyone for not knowing anything. You know, that's why they come to someone like myself to you know, guide them in the right direction to help their career in that way. But it's all about changing the mindset. That can be quite hard sometimes if someone's used to pretty much grinding day in, day out, and then you're trying to pull them back a lot and say, whoa, you're doing too much. Like I had one guy like turn up and he was running 6-7K before we were doing a strength session. And some days he'd turn up and he'd be sweating like profusely. And I'd be like, what have you just done? And just going for a run. I'm like, what? We've got like heavy squats today, you know, we're doing this and that. And it's just, you know, you can't do that. So it takes time to educate. And also we've got to build trust in them as well. Because if we're trying to pull them back from doing their hard training, they're going to be asking questions. Well, actually, does he know what he's doing? You know, this isn't as hard training as what I'm used to. And am I going to be as fit as I have been in the fights, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas they actually are fitter in the end because they're training right and they're training smart rather than just pushing the body to the limits all the time.
Well, you know, do you think it's better to have like one-on-one strength and conditioning, or is it like better to be in a class with other people doing it with them?
I'll answer that. I think that as a fighter, I think that it's in the off season, like not the off season, but when you don't have a fight lined up, I think that it's great, you know, do like for instance at Tiger, we offer, you know, the body fit, the combat conditioning, which are like programmed for fighters, or combat sports. I think that's great to do the class. But in my opinion, if you can afford it, which like with Woody is very reasonable, especially with our fighters. But I think that if you're a professional fighter, you have to find some way with a strength and conditioning coach to work something out, whether you can pay for it now or later. Just taking your career seriously, because I think that is a very, very important part of the puzzle of being a fighter and getting ready for a fight. Like, and that, I guess now that I'm in Thailand, I've kind of I don't believe in much as like actual fight camps. Like if you're fit all the time, you know, it doesn't take that long to get into fighting shape and stuff. Like if you're training all the time and getting better. But I do believe that, you know, it needs to be sport specific it needs to be specific for your fight. Like if you're doing the same shit as everyone else, I don't think that, like, of course it's going to help you, but I don't think it'll help you as much as like if you're doing it one-on-one, because everything is tailored to you. The program for strength and conditioning, like, you know, some of what your diet may be, like all your other practices outside of that, like everything is tailored into one. So I think it's pretty important, you know. In my opinion, I can say for myself as a fighter and the times that I've had fights and I've done strength and conditioning versus the, you know, times that I haven't, I've definitely been in much better conditioning for the fight, much more mentally prepared for the fight. And you know, when I did the strength and conditioning.
So you're kind of saying that, like, even if you're not in camp or if you're not getting ready for any kind of combat sport, it's always just good to take those classes to kind of stay, you know, somewhat in shape, I guess. Do you think so?
Yeah, I believe so. One of the worst things that I think an athlete can do, especially a fighter, because they obviously maybe only fight 2-3 times a year, especially if you're, you know, in the bigger promotions like UFC, etc., is taking that time off, just not doing anything. Like, because, you know, we've seen a few people come back into fight camp and then they're on an uphill battle the whole time, you know, of losing weight, of then trying to get that fitness back quick. You know, they've got 8 weeks maybe to a fight, and it's like, you know, if you stay in some sort of condition the whole year round, you don't have to be pushing yourself, but just hitting pads, just rolling jits, just doing your wrestling, that's going to keep you in good condition, and then you're learning still as well. So it's like, at the end of the day, this is the guy's jobs. Like, you know, if I just wanted to fuck off and take 3 months off, like, for the year, you know, it just doesn't work in that this is the guy's job. So they have to maintain their fitness or their skill work, even when they haven't got a fight, just to stay ready. And also, you never know, these days, like, a lot of people getting injured, this and that, you might get a call up all of a sudden, and you'd be gutted if, well, I know, like, obviously I would if I was fighting, like, UFC come calling, you've got a good record, and you're not in shape, you can't take that fight. So, you know, I think it's beneficial to stay in some sort of shape, where you know, it won't take you long to get back fight ready.
Even for like regular people, like, say, like, I'm a regular person, right? I'm not a fighter. Like, I'm not ready to get into any fights unless it's on the street, I guess. But but is it good for, like, even me, if I were to take like strength and conditioning classes? Like, how many days a week do you think is, you know, optimal for like a regular person like me to stay in shape?
It depends on your goals. You know, everybody's different. Like, generally, people just want to look, you know, if you're not fighting or you're not competing or whatever, people just want to look good and feel good at the end of the day. And as long as you've got a structured plan to kind of follow, you don't necessarily need a trainer one-on-one all the time, but you definitely need a plan and a structure to follow. But he's like 3 times a week of good exercise and, you know, and a weight training schedule will keep anybody in half decent shape, you know. And also, it's like, for the regular person, it's what you enjoy doing, you know. Some people can't stand the treadmill or can't stand running. Well, guess what? You don't have to be a runner. So go on the bike or go and do this or that, you know. It's find out what you like to do, what, you know, whether it be classes or you just like going in and pushing weights or whatever, and just stick with that, you know. For the regular person, it's 2-3 times a week, and you'll keep your heart ticking.
What do you guys think about CrossFit?
I'm not an advocate. I think it's a cult.
Like, do you think it's beneficial? Because, you know, there's a lot of, you know, people said that, you know, I've done it before, and, you know, pretty much almost anybody that exercises has probably tried it at least once. And a lot of people do get injured from taking these classes because they push themselves too hard and there's nobody there to kind of slow them down, right? So what do you guys think?
Yeah, so listen, CrossFit's got good things and it's got very bad things. from a strength and conditioning coach, like the good things is that it's created like a massive, I know George says like a cult, and I kind of agree with him, but it has got people off the couch and exercising.
Yeah, I'm sure good things.
Yeah, like it's
like people are jacked from doing it.
Yeah, it's fucking great for that. Everyone comes in and they're whooping and high fiving and all that, and you know, and it's great. Everyone becomes like a family, and I think that's awesome. If you've got a great coach, it can be very, very good. If they do, like, I know my friend back home, he owns one, and before you even are allowed to join classes, you have to do what they call is like an on-ramp course. So you come in and learn all the basic lifts and all the basic exercises for maybe 2-3 weeks, and then you're allowed to join the classes. But until then, and until you're proficient in those kind of basic lifts,
you're in the kiddie pool.
Yeah, you're there, which is amazing, because then, you know, you're not getting fucking 45-year-old blokes that have been on the couch for years being like, oh, I'm going to do CrossFit and going and deadlifting 50 times with a fucking bent back. So it's like, that's the bad side of it. They use powerlifting moves and Olympic lifting moves for reps and for time, whereas their basic strength moves and obviously power moves, you know, which shouldn't be really performed like that. You should have kind of rest in between and stuff like that. So yeah, I just think it comes down to the coaches and the way they program. But there are good things for it, and you can't deny that. You know, I watched a documentary on the CrossFit Games and whatnot. The guys and girls in there are freaks, like, at working out. You know, they're amazing at working out, and it's quite, you know, it actually made me like think, fuck, I wouldn't mind competing one day, like just having the odd competition and that. And again, that's what that's brought is another good thing. They brought competition to fitness. So it's not just going and running a race or a marathon or whatever. You've got everything, this whole fitness thing. You've got lifting weights, you've got running, you've got sprints, you've got this and that. So I think it is quite a good thing in terms of that. But yeah, as an S&C coach, I don't think it's great for athletes at all.
What do you think, George?
I stick by what he says. Look, it's funny. I always joke with him because, like, I like to think like I'm still a very young coach. I know, like, I can coach wrestling and stuff. I'm still a young MMA coach, and it's my passion and what I want to do. You know, once I'm done fighting, because I'm not fighting as much. But the thing that I should always try to better myself in everything, you know, whether it's weight cutting or whether it's strength and conditioning and stuff like that. But I always joke with Woody or with other people, like customers, and when they ask me questions, I'm like, I don't know, go talk to that guy. I was like, that's the guy that I paid to train me. Like, I'm not the, you know, the strength and conditioning coach. I'm the MMA coach or the wrestling coach. So yeah, whatever Woody says, you know, I kind of take as that being the gospel.
Oh, for sure. You know, like it's you got to do that, right? Is, you know, if you don't know, you got to give it to the professional, just like, you know, vice versa, right? Like,
right. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm not going to pretend like I know a little bit about, like, I know how to go and, like, if I want to work out myself, I have a pretty good idea from from high school and college. Cause, you know, we did a lot of weightlifting in college, especially, but high school as well. So I know how to, like, go and work all my, you know, my muscles and probably make myself better, but I don't know, like, sport specific stuff. I don't know how to, like, I can put people, like, I've learned through, like, you know, different things that, you know, I can do to get fighters well prepared, like in physical conditioning, but that's like kind of along the lines of what he would do. So even at that, like on a weekend, if I have 3 people fighting in the next month and I put them through like a circuit, like I'll ask Woody, hey, should I do this or this? You know, what do you think's better? And he'll say, oh, you should do this, but make sure that they don't do this and they do that. So again, like, I ask him questions because, look, I'm not a strength coach, you know, I'm the MMA coach.
Woody, like, you have fighters that fight at like flyweight all the way up to heavyweight. Now, when you do strength and conditioning programs for these fighters, when they're like a bantamweight compared to a heavyweight or a light heavyweight, is it totally different, the curriculum that you use, or is it just like individually different?
Not necessarily, mate. It is. I mean, you've got to take every person kind of obviously different. Everyone is different. They're made up genetically different, and they'll have different things going on with their bodies and stuff like that. But there's generally a pattern with fighters that you can, like, for mobility and things like this, which I've seen over the years that you kind of are just expecting to be when a new athlete comes to work with me. And that's always kind of tight pecs, rounded shoulders, because everyone's always in that hunch position, especially if they've been wrestling for years. They've always been down in this hunch position. They kind of really tight in hamstrings and hips. And it's like, you know, you kind of see that pattern forming a lot with, doesn't matter from bantam all the way up to heavy. It really doesn't matter. They kind of all have the same thing. So
except for me, I'm pretty loose.
Yeah, except for George. Yeah. Just need,
Loose as a goose.
We tried to change his face, but it just won't happen. No, but in terms of like the heavyweight guys, you just have to be aware that obviously they are heavy guys. So like you have to work them slightly different. I wouldn't run a heavier guy. I'd get him on the bike all the time or swimming or something like this. Save his joints because all that constant pounding and the road work, it's not good for a heavier bloke to kind of do that. And also you have to be aware that, you know, they are carrying a lot more weight. So their cardio has to be introduced quite early into the camp and built up gradually. Whereas opposed to like, you know, someone of the smaller weight class, generally their cardio is pretty on point a lot of the time. So you still introduce it, you know, a little bit different, but yeah, there are slight different modalities that you have to follow through. But the principles kind of stay the same with every athlete, to be honest, mate. Like, it's just the different accessory work that the main lifts are always kind of there. It's just the different accessory work that you have to work in depending on the athlete's weaknesses. So yeah, you have to just figure that out and then program accordingly.
Here's another interesting fact that you didn't know about Woody.
All right.
He did the 2016 weight cuts for Team Azerbaijan in wrestling. He was in Rio.
Oh, for the Olympics.
Yeah, he was the guy, did the weight cuts for Team Azerbaijan for the Olympic wrestlers for freestyle Greco.
Damn.
Yeah.
Props, man. That was involved in Olympics. It's pretty big.
It was pretty cool to go across. Just helping with the final preparations the last 3 weeks. So yeah, I was flown across to Rio, and that was a pretty cool experience.
Were they easy to work with, or was there a lot of obstacles?
Nah, they were easy for the most part, mate. They were easy for the most part. It's just
their nutrition and our nutrition are different.
Yeah, again, it's education. That's all. It's just education.
Like, what kind of nutrition?
So, well, I turned up and nobody knew me. Like, and I was sat downstairs having my breakfast. I'd only turned up the night before, got to the hotel, and sat downstairs having my breakfast. And then I saw all the blokes walking in, pounding bread, and then finishing off with some cakes for breakfast. And I'm like, Jesus. Some of them had big weight cuts as well, you know. And some of them were lean already, and I'm just like, wow.
Work's cut out for me.
Yeah, I was like, I nearly got on the bus and got the plane home. So yeah, it was just, again, it's just education. But once like I spoke to a few people and kind of got the mindset changed a little bit and made sure that everything was cleared out of because I had to clear out of the rooms, like all the sweet stuff, and because they had chocolate and everything fucking piled up in the rooms and that. So I had to be like, listen to the coaches, because a lot of them had all their own personal coaches. So I just like had to say, listen, guys, you've got to do me a favor, get all the crap out of the rooms, and just so it resists the temptation. You know, if they're hungry or whatever, then they don't snack on fucking dairy milk. But yeah, so it was interesting. It was definitely an amazing experience, you know, to get thrown kind of into that. And yeah, I learned a lot. It was cool. Rio was an interesting place. I'd definitely like to go again and just visit it normally. But I was kind of babysitting for the most part.
What was the most like one of the fighters was cutting?
8 kilo, 2 weeks out. But which doesn't sound a lot, but he was cutting down from in the 60s.
Oh, okay.
50s and 59, I think. So, so for someone small, that's a fuck ton of weight.
Yeah, percentage-wise of the body weight, right?
Yeah, that's a lot, you know.
He went down a weight class, right?
Yeah, he went down. So I was just like, listen, you're gonna have to cut it down as much as possible, just obviously without water cutting and all that. And then we're going to try and get the last little bit off you through water, but not too much. But it was hard, man. It was hard for him. I told him it wasn't going to be easy. Like I said, you know, you've left it too late, but we're here now. We're at the Olympics. I've got to get shit done.
And he made it.
Yeah, he got third. Got bronze.
Nice, man. That's big on the resume right there.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. Definitely cool.
Well, you know, let's talk about the weight cutting thing. One of the biggest examples that I could think of in recent memory is Johnny Hendricks.
I was just thinking that too.
Yeah, Johnny Hendricks, he was known to blow up to like 220 and then cut down to 170. Now, doing that repeatedly, what are the negative consequences of that?
Listen, it's just not good for your body to put it under that stress. And then obviously he's obviously, I mean, I've not seen the bloke eat, but he obviously starts eating a fair lot of food after
he does own a steakhouse.
Yeah, after he finishes. So it's just not ideal, you know. It's like we go back to what we were saying before, like keeping yourself in a decent shape and kind of ready and whatever else. And I think it's impacted his career a lot. I mean, look at him now, like he's struggling. Even he's gone up a weight class and now he's struggling there. So, but just some people just don't. They just can't resist. They don't like the dieting. They don't, you know, all that sort of thing. So, which I understand. I'm not a big fan of dieting myself, but the thing is, again, it's your job. Like, you're going to get paid. You know, he was up there with the best, so you're going to get paid a lot of money for doing your job. And you've got like we always say, you've got two things to do: make weight and fight. And that's it. Like,
and it's not like making weight in college wrestling where you're not getting paid. Like, you're getting paid, and for him, copious amounts of money.
Yeah.
And he reached the highest level in wrestling and in MMA. And now he's just become not even a top 15, not even a top 20 fighter in his division. And I think that has to do with his weight cutting. Because you got to look at it. He started wrestling when he was like 4 or 5 years old. Yeah. And he continued until, like, he's never really taken a break in his life of actually just weight cutting. He's been training, cutting weight, wrestling, and then after the wrestling, he moved on to fighting, and it just continued. And then when he got to his 30s, I think his body just was done, and it just affected everything in his fighting.
Yeah, I agree. And like, it's amazing actually, because I think he must have just had enough as well, like mentally, because from what George, like I know nothing about the American wrestling program, but what like George and his brother Frank like tell me, and also from like the Russians and stuff, like it's a grueling program, like it's insane, and you're making weight every week,
especially in college. You're making weight at least from November to March, and like in college wrestling, you're making weight at least once a week, if not twice.
So it's like,
and back-to-back days. Like, sometimes you'll wrestle in a tournament, you weigh in Friday, you make it to the second day, you weigh in Saturday, you get Sunday off, and you're back in practice on Monday, no later than Tuesday, but usually Monday, and you have to make weight again the next week. So that is hard. Like, making weight for fighting, it sucks, but it's not like, it's just like, oh, I have this 12-hour, and in wrestling, at least for myself, like you're dehydrating yourself like 2 or 3 days out. Like you're on the treadmill in the plastics running. You're not drinking a lot of water. And for fighting, you're water loading. So like, yeah, it sucks, but you're still just smashing water until literally the day, like a half, 12 hours before or whatever it is. So it's not, for me, making weight for fighting, yeah, it sucks, but it's a lot easier than making weight for wrestling in college.
I think like he just must have obviously done that grind for years and years and years and years, and then into the UFC, just ground it out, started obviously producing those awesome results and winning, and got his name right up to the top level, and obviously started making a lot of dollar. And then I just think that on his off, as soon as he got off, he was just like, you know what, I'm going to enjoy myself. And I can't blame the bloke, but there's obviously a time to switch that off. And I just don't think he's obviously got that right in his head or whatever it might be. So yeah, it's a shame though, because he was he was an awesome competitor, and he still is. He just has not got that part quite right, and he's employed some good people to help him. But he must be sneak eating at night or something.
He's doing the 24-hour drive-throughs at 2 in the morning. Get the triple stack. But yeah, he was like at his like peak, he was unstoppable, man. Like he lost to GSP, but everybody knows that he beat GSP in that fight. If you watch that fight, he retired GSP basically. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, Johnny Hendricks is like one of the. I think if they ever did like a documentary about weight cutting and how it can affect you, he would be one of the people. Yeah, he should be in it. He's a prime example of somebody that reached the peak, the pinnacle of wrestling, of MMA, and then just fell off. And it could be all contributed to weight cutting, and like you just said earlier, mentally. Yeah. It drained him so much.
Yeah, wrestling, like, especially when you do it from the time that you're like 5 until all the way through college, it's hard. Like, anybody that wrestles, like, whether it was high school or middle school, like, I always have respect for them, because I know, like, whether they or not they cut weight, like, they still went through practices and stuff like that. And it's, especially, like, high school is one thing, it sucks. But when you get to college, it's like, it's a whole different level of just, like, going to class, cutting weight, going to practice, preseason, especially if you're on scholarship. Then it's even more than just being a normal, like, walk-on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, in terms of, like, I've got respect for wrestlers as well, like, in terms of the guys that I've trained strength and conditioning wise. If we've got a session where it is conditioning, and it's like, listen, you're gonna have to dig in on this session, and it's not gonna be nice, but wrestlers are the ones that they're just non-stop. They just push through. They just grit the teeth and go. And every kind of wrestler that I've trained has been the same way. So I think that obviously comes from that grueling college program where you just have to dig in and get it done. And it's quite good. It's impressive to see, actually, because some workouts are very fucking horrible, but these guys are just go, and it's pretty good.
It just shows you that the best base for MMA is wrestling.
I think so as well. Like, obviously, just viewing it, from being around and being around.
Just from MMA. A mental aspect. Like, I've been in fights before where I'm just like, God, I wish, like, this guy would either knock me out or I knock him out. I just want to get out of here. But you just keep going. And I think that's, like, my brother and I always joke about my dad. Like, when we were kids, like, I remember being, like, in 5th grade and him, like, not pushing me to do things, but, like, pushing me but not making me, like, if you want to be good, this is what you'll do. Like, going for, like, runs in the morning before school or after practice, or, lifting weights, because you're still, like, a kid at that time. But I remember him, like, I guess instilling, like, values in me, saying, like, you got to have the intestinal fortitude to do it and do this. And I guess through wrestling, man, that's, like, other stuff is, like, easy. Like, I think there's even a saying, like, once you've wrestled, everything else in life is easy. And it's, like, really ridiculously dorky and cliche, but it is true. Like, I think about like back in Frank, my brother and I were just FaceTiming our college coach earlier before Woody came over, and we were like laughing about like because he just said he had like 4 guys quit this week, and it's still preseason, you know. And he was like, we only wrestle twice a week in preseason compared to when you guys were here, and that was like back in 2008, I guess, when I was there, or 2009 was my last year. But it's so like true, like it just. Wrestling is like, it's so hard, you know? And for fighting to me is like fun because I'm always learning new stuff. Like, it's just like wrestling. You never, you know, you can always learn. But for me, fighting is new. Like, even though I've been doing it a while now, it's still new. You're always learning. But wrestling is like, every day is a complete grind. Whether you're in the weight room and it's supposed to be an easy day, as they say, it's still not easy. It's still like all the time, whether it's your coach or your teammates, like it's hard all the time.
Yeah, wrestling, man, it's just, yeah, mentally, physically, the cardio aspect of it.
Yeah, to answer the question, yes, I think being a wrestler coming to MMA, you have a head start. You may have the worst technique in the world as a striker, but you can still always take the guy down, you know, a lot of the times. And things, you know, as a sport continues to grow and evolve, it's not just being a wrestler anymore isn't that easy. But it does give you an advantage in my eyes because I think it's the hardest thing to learn, and also the mental aspect. Like, I think 9 times out of 10, if you're a wrestler, you're always going to be able to, you know, keep pushing forward like Woody said.
If you look at most of the champions that have won the title in the UFC or is currently champions, they're all wrestlers. Yeah. Most of them. If you look at it, right? Mighty Mouse, the greatest of all time. His base is wrestling. John Jones, one of the greatest of all time, right? Base is wrestling. Daniel Cormier, wrestling. You could just go on and on.
Cody Garbrandt,
yeah.
When he was the champion, he was Cain Velasquez. Yeah. Stipe Miocic, he wrestled in our conference, actually, in college at Cleveland State. Hey, you can go up and down.
For real, it's pretty amazing, man. Like the list of people. But now, what I want to move on to is TRT.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some TRT, right? So now, you know, we've all seen what TRT can do, especially with the prime example is Vitor Belfort. He was taking TRT. You know, everybody knows Vitor. And then when he went off of TRT, he wasn't the same guy. His body wasn't the same. Right now.
Yeah.
What are the advantages of TRT? And then what are the disadvantages? Like, most people don't know. Usually people will Google it, but a lot of the sites are not telling the truth. So can you tell me what you know?
So listen, so in regards to like non-sporting, so basically as blokes get older, our natural testosterone declines. It's just something that happens as we get older. So the TRT it's testosterone replacement therapy. So basically you're replacing your testosterone levels back to where they were when you were younger to maintain a healthy level. The idea of this is, obviously, as males, testosterone's our thing. That's what makes us blokes. So we want to try and hold on to that for as long as possible. It can, if you have low testosterone, it can lead to a number of illnesses. You feel depressed. It can lead to, like, you know, your quality of sleep, like everything, just lethargic. You know, it can lead to a lot of health issues, actually. And it's quite important that people actually realize that, because a lot of guys don't know that their testosterone is low unless they go and get it obviously tested. And some guys wouldn't even know even to go and get tested and see if the testosterone is low. So, like I say, it can be dangerous if it's real low, and it can lead to a lot of, you know, health concerns. You're not going to die from it, but, you know, like I say, it's just not ideal as a bloke to be like that. So the testosterone replacement replaces that, and it makes you feel better, and it puts those aging things to the back of the room for a little while. Now in sport, you say you fight, you get two 38-year-olds. One's doing TRT and the other one isn't. Well, immediately the guy that isn't doing TRT is at a disadvantage because his testosterone levels will for sure be lower than the guy doing TRT. So it's cheating, essentially. It's cheating. Unless everyone's on a level playing field, it's someone's got that advantage. So yeah, I don't necessarily agree with it in sport. I know it's going to keep going on, whether it be testosterone replacement or just actually taking steroids to enhance sports performance. I mean, it happens in every sport. It's not just MMA. It's right across the board. I mean, if you've seen that documentary on Netflix, Icarus, that just came out.
Very good one.
Yeah, which is insanely an eye-opener.
Thank you, John.
That's crazy. That documentary about, for those that haven't seen it, is it starts off with just an amateur cyclist, and he goes and does one of the toughest amateur races in the world, which is compared to the Tour de France. That's how tough it is. And he goes and he races and he says, okay, I'm going to do it this year clean. And then he says, I'm going to do the following year with performance enhancing. And he's going to get the best doctors to help him along the way and see how his performance improves. And then obviously as that goes on, it unfolds with the whole Russian saga of, you know, the nation doping program unfolds on that documentary. And then the documentary switches into that kind of that story, which was crazy because watching that's insane. It's absolutely insane that the nation was backing the doping and they were hiding it. They hid it obviously for years, and they won a lot of medals out of it and stuff like this. So yeah, it's like, listen, as far as, you know, back in the day when people were wrestling tigers or whatever, they were used to drink the tiger blood or whatever it was because it was going to give them fucking strength, and you know, people believe that. So everyone's always been looking for that competitive edge, and I think it's not going to go. All that's going to happen is that the guys that are making the steroids and the performance enhancing stuff are just going to get that little bit better at masking it, and the testers then are always chasing. They're always chasing. So I just don't know where it'll kind of end, whether they'll just, I really don't know.
Did you see anything funny in Rio? Because you were at the Olympics and they were supposed to be banned. Russia was supposed to be banned from the Rio Olympics, but the Olympic Committee, because, you know, it's all in the documentary. They allowed them to compete. Did you see any of those guys over there?
To be honest, mate, no, because the first couple of weeks we were outside of the athlete village at like a hotel maybe 4 hours away from Rio Center. Mm-hmm. And then it was the last sort of week and a half that we actually came down into the center of Rio to the athlete village and that. And you just see the athletes walking around and stuff like that and going to their hotels and everything like that. So I didn't really get a chance to see anything, you know, behind the scenes or anything in terms of that way. So no, not really. Nothing really untoward there. But yeah, like people are going to always do it, unfortunately.
What do you think about the Olympics now after you watched the documentary? Because to me, I was like, the Olympics means nothing, you know, for a viewer, a spectator.
Yeah, like, well, I've been a coach for a lot of years now, and I've been involved with like a few different sports and stuff like that. And as far as going back, I've known people taking stuff to enhance their performance in all different sports. And I just, like I said to you before, I just don't know where it can go. Like, unless everyone's on a complete level playing field and they just say, okay, let's just see how fast everyone can fucking run. You can take whatever you want. Let's see how far the body can go. There's no real way that we can police it because people are finding different ways to cheat and to hide the tests and all this sort of thing. So it's just hard, mate. Like, people will always take stuff because the competitor in them obviously wants to be the best in the world, and they might look to the next bloke and think, well, how's he performing like this when last year he wasn't? Oh, and then next minute the coach says, oh, well, you know, he's performance enhancing. Well, fuck him. I was way better than him last year, and now he's overtaken me. I'm going to take the stuff. I'm going to get better than him again. So it's like, it's a vicious circle, mate. I just don't see where it can go, and it's a shame because you never know who's clean and who's not.
So it's like the drug war. It's never ending.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, you can test all you want, but there's ways of masking it, and which we all know. And there's ways of getting around it, and there's, you know, fuck, a whole nation was behind it, for God's sake. Like, that's craziness.
Well, they're saying that, like, China has been doing it for a long time. Even Jamaica, like, before, Jamaica's, like, they were never known for anything really, and then all of a sudden, boom, they become the fastest people in the world and just breaking world records all the time. And everybody's like, how are they doing that? And there's, like, a lot of speculation, you know, like those doping guys. That Victor Conte, he's the one who did the Balco, and he's the one who was giving Marion Jones her juice, and all those people, right? And he's coming out and saying things like that. So, yeah, you're right. I agree with you. It's always gonna be there. Oh, it's always gonna happen. The people that are gonna cheat, they're gonna cheat, and they're gonna find better ways to cheat. And the people that are chasing them, they're just gonna keep chasing them forever. That guy for the UFC, USADA, what's his? I forgot his name. Nowinski. His name is Nowinski, right? He's just the. I don't even know what to call him. He's just a guy that's just gonna be chasing a ghost forever if he continues that job.
I think it's good though that the UFC is, like, you know, that they put those, like, the measures in to, like, try to clean the sport up, because I think it definitely has helped a lot. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. I think that it's going to be a never-ending cycle of, you know, people trying to cheat and people trying to catch people trying to cheat.
But you look at the old days of, like, Pride and stuff like that, where they didn't test or anything like that. But everyone went mental for the big blokes bashing each other. Big, huge, like, Hercules-style fellas just going at each other. And people loved it. Japanese loved it. Like, we all loved watching Pride. You know, the big heavyweights are the best ones of their generation, like, going at it. And it was, you know, it was good. It was good to watch, you know. But everybody knew then that that's what it was going on, you know. Everyone knew that, okay, well, obviously I'm going to fight this bloke. He's taking or whatever.
Clearly, I need to get on the gear. Like, think about, like, the Smashing Machine, that documentary.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That was basically Icarus before Icarus, you know what I mean? Like, for MMA.
Yeah. Like, think about how crazy that documentary is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a real good documentary, that.
Yeah. Very interesting, that one, because it shows you kind of like the downfall.
Yeah, it's just like he's spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was all to try and be the best. To try and be the best.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's what the drive is in some people, is they'll do whatever it takes.
Do you think that's the same, like, mentality of John Jones? Do you think even though he is the best, and everybody tells him probably everywhere he goes, like, you're the best, even before he was, who knows if he's been taking steroids the whole time, you know, like I was saying to somebody else before, that if this is all true, right? Maybe John Jones was taking steroids from the beginning, and as he got richer and leveled up, he just got better steroids. You know what I mean? Or he got a better doctors and shit like that. And then USADA came in, because before they said it was like an intelligence test in the UFC. You just had to just pee on the night of the fights, basically. Yeah. And that was it. So it was an intelligence test. Are you intelligent enough to get away with it? But now USADA comes in and they're just busting everybody. What do you think of the John Jones thing?
I think, like we all know, skill-wise, I don't think there's any doubt that he is the best. In terms of like, I think it'd be very stupid of him to have taken anything. Like, it's so weird. Like, I just don't get why he would then fail the whatever that was the day after or whatever it was for a steroid that can stay in your system. It would mean that he would have had to take the steroid on the night of the fight, which would have done nothing for him. Like, the type of steroid that he took would have done nothing for him.
I think that's weird.
So it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't understand why he would do that. It really doesn't make sense. So let's see about that test. I mean, God knows what's going to happen with that.
I think he's done a lot of dumb shit.
Yeah.
So I it's just really weird, you know. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but you know, maybe he did take stuff before, but I don't know.
But listen, man, like, yeah, okay, you can take steroids and whatever, and obviously he must have had to take. If he was taking, he would have had a doctor telling him what amounts, this and that, and it wouldn't have been over the top at all. It would have been probably to help him recover, so he could train better, etc., because he's in a weight class at the end of the day. He's a big bloke already. If he was taking like certain steroids, he would have just gone huge. It would have been hard for him to make weight, this and that. It would have been problems in terms of his skill work. So taking steroids doesn't make you kick someone in the head like he kicked Cormier, you know. It doesn't give you those skills. It can give you a competitive edge for sure in terms of like strength and things like that. But at the end of the day, the bloke's a skilled athlete. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see, like George says, how it plays out.
Don Fry, you know Don Fry, you know, legend. Yeah. Don Fry, you know, he doesn't hold back, right? You know what he said? He said that USADA catches who they want to catch. This is a quote by Don Fry. Do you think that's true? Do you think there's like a conspiracy against John Jones?
The older I get, the more I believe in conspiracies. I don't know, bro. I mean, I don't know if it would be a conspiracy, but if something did come about, let's be honest, like they probably wouldn't be giving them the benefit of the doubt. Like,
I don't think they would be picking on John Jones if there was like, if USADA was busting people that they want to bust, because John Jones is making money for the company. Why would you bust him making money for the company?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also think like maybe they're just like, yo, stop fucking up. Like, it's been enough. But like I said, who knows, bro? Because that whole like thing, like at first, like I remember when I woke up and I saw the headlines, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, how dumb can he be? He's done it again. But then like the more like stuff that comes out, you're like, oh, maybe the guy, like maybe something is tainted and it's, you know, maybe something's not right here. But who knows? Like, I don't know what to believe.
It could be a race thing too. There's those things that come out too. Like, it's a race thing. They're trying to keep John Jones. He's a black man in America, trying to get rich, trying to be famous, you know, coming up, and they're trying to pull him back down type shit. That shit comes out too. That's a conspiracy too. It's a dumb conspiracy, but it's out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be fucking poor form if that was the case.
Yeah.
I think even on the other side, like if USADA are kind of doing that, then obviously the UFC are telling them. UFC is a huge company with a lot of pull, and obviously sports at the moment, it's the fastest growing sport in the world. UFC is fucking huge. Everybody knows it.
Who knows?
If they were doing that, you know, it wouldn't surprise me with a few things that I've seen, like obviously that Icarus documentary and things like that. But yeah, like George says, who knows? Like, it's
just like the whole thing with like USADA, the UFC. Like, I mean, really, who knows? We'll get there, like whatever side comes out in the media, but that's it. So
let me list to all the fighters that USADA has busted. It's kind of shocking because I was, you know, getting ready for this podcast. You know, I did a little digging and shit, you know, just find out what I could ask Woody. And let me list you: Vitor, Frank Mir, Mirko Krokov, Cyborg, Yoel Romero, John Jones, Brock Lesnar, Lyoto Machida. Those are just the big names.
Wow.
There's a whole other list of people that they have busted and suspended. So do you think that they should kind of Oh, Jesse Taylor. What do you think about the Jesse Taylor situation, dude?
No,
Like,
I'm gonna have to go with Diego Lima. That's like one of my boys.
Jesse Taylor won the tough finale
Yeah,
and
I
then
know.
got popped. What do you do with that money, dude? That's $280,000.
Give it back to Diego Lima.
You better make some shirts. You better get some shirts out there.
I think I liked his tweet or retweeted it the other day because he's like one of my friends and training partners from the state. I just got my purple belt from his coach Jucal when he was out here, and we were talking about it. Give the money to Diego. He could use it.
Yeah, what's that situation, man? That's like very unclear too. Like you won 200. That's like life-changing money right there. 280,000, dude. Like that's serious, right? And he got popped. That's like Brock Lesnar too. Brock Lesnar made what, $3 million for his fight against Mark Hunt, and he got popped. Like, don't you think the money should be going to the other fighter if they get popped for something?
Yeah, I think it should. I think
they're the one who's taking the risk.
I think if someone gets popped, it should automatically go a no contest, and then the money should be handed over.
I agree too.
What is the good percentage, do you think, of the purse that should go to his opponent or her opponent?
The win bonus, at least.
Yeah, the win bonus at least. Yeah.
Well, there's really some people don't get win bonuses, so should it be like a 80%, 60%?
Well,
I think it should be like 75%.
Yeah, it should be a high number for sure.
Yeah, like something that would deter you from doing anything crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
$3 million?
And lose all your pay-per-view money.
Yeah, $3 million, 75% of that. I'm not no fucking genius, but that's a lot of motherfucking money.
Yeah.
And that's why when Mark Hunt came out and was saying all that shit, man, it's like I support Mark Hunt, man, 100%. Like, think of all the people that he fought. Bigfoot popped after he fought him. Frank Mir popped after he fought him, and Brock Lesnar fought after he fought him, right? Or popped after he fought him. Like, anybody that's talking shit about Mark Hunt, like, you don't know about fucking sports, man. You don't fucking give a fuck about the athletes because that dude has gone through the fucking gauntlet and everything against him. And now the UFC is fucking pulling him from the fights or his fight, and he'll probably never fight again, most likely. Because they pull him for this. Because didn't you see McSweeney? They pulled his ass too for KSW last week.
I saw that. I don't know like what the whole thing was with it, but I saw it.
Well, let me explain to you what I know. What I know is that Safe MMA, right, is a company that like does some stuff for KSW to make sure that their fighters are fit to fight. And I guess he did an interview with them and did some tests or something. And he was admitting that he had like seizures, right? And stuff like that, and he's been having this for a while. And then because of that, they pulled him. And then McSweeney came out and like lied about what he said to the Safe MMA, and like this controversy came. But to me, to be honest with you, if he said that he's been having seizures, you have to pull him, man.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, if somebody was like, if it was my show and they were like, I've had seizures, I'm like, yeah, well, you're not fighting because something happens to you, that's on me. And then, as a promoter, then you got to pay all kinds of insurance and all that other shit.
And
it's the safety, man. Like, you don't want to see someone like that.
That's the big thing. Like, if I know that there's a fact that something's going to happen on my show, I would never have that person because, like, you don't want that on your hands. You don't want that to happen to them, but you especially don't want it to happen to them on your watch when like, hey, they had a concussion and they can get seizures and then something happens.
Yeah, he retired 2 years ago because of that, from what I remember. And that's why he retired.
It was when he fought Tai Tuivasa. He's been over at Tiger recently preparing for UFC Sydney. That was his last fight against him, and he didn't come out for the second round, I think. Just said he couldn't see.
Yeah, he couldn't. Yeah, he went blind or something for.
Yeah, and then he announced that he was having these seizures for a while, and he had to retire. So give it up.
Yo, peep this shit out about McSweeney. He fought for the one championship title, right, against Roger Gracie, Or I don't think maybe it was for the title. I'm not for sure. I don't remember. But he fought Hodger Gracie, and Hodger Gracie knocked his ass out. And McSweeney is a striker.
Yeah.
Hodger Gracie. Think about that.
Yeah.
So something must have been wrong where Hodger Gracie barely hit him and his shit got shut out or something. I think he's been probably, from what he's saying, he's been having that shit for a while. And maybe it's since the Hodger Gracie, maybe around that time, maybe started. I don't know. But yeah, how do you get knocked out by Hodger Gracie? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Bro. Like, Hodger Gracie, he retired too.
Yeah. Oh, he has?
With the belt. He didn't even defend it. He just retired with the belt. He's just like, fuck it. And he retired from jiu-jitsu. He went and beat the best heavyweight jiu-jitsu guy, tapped his ass, retired this year. And then after that, like right now, like last month, he retired from MMA with the one championship belt. So yeah, he's a ledge for real. Like he just did the damn thing. Like fuck everybody.
Did it and dipped.
Yeah. But
yeah, I feel for Mark Hunt, man. He's been thrown under the bus ruthlessly.
Big time, man. Like
it's just ridiculous. Like that they can't. You would hope that they would give him a call and say, listen, we're gonna have to pull you from the fight for, he did do that interview where he said, sometimes he's slurring and blah blah blah. But that, obviously might not have been the smartest thing to say or whatever, because the UFC were clearly looking for something. But man, the guy's been fighting for years. He's a legend of the sport.
Just pay the man money and let him go, or give him an office job.
Yeah, pay him some good dollar. And also it was absolutely ridiculous that they pulled him from the card that he wanted to fight Verdum on, and then Verdum said, "Oh, the dates don't match" or whatever. He couldn't do it, and then all of a sudden Verdum's back, replacing him. It's like you're just taking the piss out of the bloke, and it's like, it's a shame to see. Like, I hate the UFC in that respect because they are the biggest in the world, and they just, it's one of those things.
Big business.
Yeah, it's business, so they just feel like they can treat anybody the way they want to treat them, and it's bullshit, man.
Another aspect of it is UFC is hurting right now, like bad. Pay-per-views is terrible, and Mark Hunt, he gets paid a lot of money when he fights, a lot. Yeah. That's like 6 figures right there. And I think that has to, like you said, it's big business. It's about business, and they're going to try to find a way not to pay that money. And, they found their way. And it's fucked up because Mark Hunt, like he said, he spent a lot of money getting ready for this camp. Why even fucking give him a fight and have him start camp and then pull him off? That's fucking stupid too.
They should chuck him some cash, 100%.
Yeah, something should happen. All right, before we bounce, I want to talk to you about diuretics. Now, a lot of people got popped for diuretics. This is supposed to be also a performance-enhancing drug. Is diuretics performance enhancing?
I wouldn't say so. It's
weight cutting.
Weight cutting. Yeah.
And do you think that's performance enhancing? If it enhances your weight cut, it's part of.
Yeah, it's part of the job. Like you're taking something to help you get to where you need to be faster.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I wouldn't say it's performance enhancing because those things can last like 24 hours in your body. So you're trying to rehydrate and your body's trying to fucking dehydrate still. So it ain't like, I wouldn't necessarily say it's performance enhancing, but it definitely helps to get your weight down, to get that water out. But it's dangerous, man. If you're having to take diuretics to cut your weight, you haven't cut weight properly.
And what about IVs? George, like IVs, was IVs great to have? Or is it like you really didn't have to have
IVs. When I fought in December, I took an IV. Yeah, I like IVs. I think that it's good. I mean, look, again, I don't know that much about the science of everything, but it definitely helps. I mean, people on the U.S. ladder that wrestle do it. You can't really do it in college because there's not enough time. But like for fighting all the time, for the most part, almost every time I've ever cut weight for fighting, I've had an IV. And it definitely, like, you make weight. Usually, like, I will make weight, I go eat, and Woody and I'll go back to the room, and then he gives me an IV, and I feel great.
It's just a quicker way of getting the fluids in, that's all. But again, obviously UFC have banned those now.
Because the plastics.
But I think their main reason was to try and deter people from cutting as much weight.
Yeah.
Because people obviously, really severely dehydrating themselves, and then obviously the IV goes in real quick, so they can rehydrate themselves a lot quicker into the body in that state.
Like, I don't think everything weight cutting is going to be done away with 100%. It's just like performance enhancing drugs. Like, people are always going to cut weight because that's how it's been since the beginning of time for wrestling and combat sports.
Again, it's to try and gain that advantage, isn't it? It's to be the bigger person.
And it doesn't matter. Like, in this day and age, it's just been ingrained in us from the time we were like started competing. I remember, like, my dad wasn't an advocate of me cutting weight, but if I wanted to like go run and lose like half a pound as a kid, he'd let me do it to make the weight class below. And then in high school, I started cutting weight, where I cut weight in middle school, But it's like, it's just ingrained in you as an athlete in a combat sport to lose weight. And I think that it's never like, we'll never see weight cutting fully out of MMA or combat sports. I just think it's always going to be there.
I like the way ONE FC have done their thing now.
Yeah.
With the way that they've got like the weight classes,
the block weights. But even in college, like, we had to do certifications and hydration tests like as athletes. And I remember one time my senior year or like junior year, I wrestled at 149 and I got certified at 141. Like, I would have like killed myself to make that weight, but I had to get certified. So what did I do? I went in the bathroom and like took the hydration test and put water in it, and like, just like every other athlete does.
Fuck, man. Like, I don't think there's no solution to that. Like,
yeah,
you said,
I think
it's part of the sport.
It is. And I think that it's never going to go away.
That's how it is. Well, Woody, Andrew Wood, thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, very enlightening. If anybody's in Phuket, you need some strength and conditioning, you need some advice, go talk to this man.
Got the big man.
Yeah, the big man. He's there.
Check out Vis Vires Athletics on Facebook.
Yeah, and Woody Vis Vires is my handle on Twitter and Instagram. Check it out.
Look at him throwing out my handle. He's fishing on my handle.
All right. Well, it was good, man. I'll see you guys around.
Nice one. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.